Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We have a treat for you tonight. You are on the 7 biggest money mistakes that chiropractors make webinar, and it's about to get good. I'm here with my good friend, Derick Van Ness. We're honored to have him back again. We did a webinar with him not too long ago, and this one is even more valuable. I'm telling you, you're on the line here. You're about to get some awesome information. Hopefully, you've downloaded the notes like I have. You've got them right here in front of you, pen in hand, ready to learn something. If you haven't downloaded them, we're just letting everybody know. You can go to bringpurposetolife.com/Chiro7 and download all the notes there. But hopefully you have them ready. Derick Van Ness, he is a professional success coach, a speaker, an author. He's actually a senior coach and mentor for Garrett Gunderson's Freedom Fast Track team. And he's just an amazing guy. So I am honored to introduce him tonight. Derick, how are you?
I'm fantastic, Tabor. I appreciate you having me here. Really excited to be sharing this stuff with people. And we're going to go deeper tonight than we've ever gone before. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, I tell you what, I can't wait. And I'm not going to make everybody wait and listen to me talk. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you and let you take it away.
Sounds great. And you know, for all you docs on here, I'm really excited to be talking to you because if you haven't heard of Garrett Gunderson or the Freedom Fast Track, we are a firm that absolutely loves the chiropractic profession. We've worked with probably close to 1,000 docs in the last couple of years across North America. And one of our specialties and what we're going to be talking about tonight is how to help you keep more of the money that you make. Okay, and the way that we do that is we help you to dispel a lot of myths and figure out a lot of the things that are common mistakes, because as near as I can tell, the 15 minutes of business school you get while learning to be a doc isn't quite enough for everybody to be a perfect business owner. We get that. Everybody's got their expertise. I'm here to help you leverage our expertise so that we can use it to help you keep more of the money you make. So I'm really excited about that. And I will tell you this, as we go through this, there's going to be a special gift at the end of the call, so make sure you stick around for that because, as you know and I know, even if we give you the best information in the world, you've got to apply it. I want to help you do that. Make sure you get results because quite literally, when I've done presentations like this, for some people, it has been worth 5 figures or even 6 figures. I don't want to overstate it, but seriously, there is a massive amount of value that can be taken out of this. So I'm really, really excited about that. So the first thing I want to do, if you haven't downloaded the workbook, make sure you did. Most of you hopefully already downloaded it. You've got the notes in front of you because there was one page that I asked you to do in the workbook before you get on the call tonight. If you didn't, we're going to do that right now. But you can see the link at the bottom of the page, bringpurposetolife.com/Chiro7, right, the number 7. And if you haven't done that, go ahead and do that real quick. But we're going to go through the 12 questions that we want to start out with kind of as an evaluation of where are you right now, okay? And as we do these, it's not necessary for you to pretend like you know something you don't know or to look good, but really to make sure that you're being honest with yourself. I mean, I know you work with patients all the time. They come in, and as you probably know as well as I do, the ones who pretend like they know everything and aren't open to learning anything new don't get near the value of the people who are really honest and open about, hey, I'm here for a reason. I want to learn. I want to get some value. So be honest with yourself, and everybody will benefit the greatest here. So let's go through these questions real quick. And if you're on the phone and you've got some noise in the background, please hit the mute button because we'll definitely be going fast and furious here. I'm going to do my best to pack this together in an hour for you so that we can really maximize your time. So if you're on the line, hit mute, and we'll keep the background noise to a minimum. So first question here. Pull out your workbook if you don't have it, but these are the questions. The first one is, do you know how much revenue your business created last year? One of the things you've got to know as a business owner is how much money is coming in, how much is running through my business every month, every year. If you're not aware of this, that's something to take note of. But if you do know, write that number down. Number 2, do you know how much of that revenue actually ended up as profit? Because bringing money through your business and how much you keep are 2 different things, and it's really important to be able to distinguish. So if you don't know that or you're unaware of those numbers, those are things you're going to want to know. Third question, are you currently making payments on any debt at a higher than a 5% interest rate? And if you are, how much debt are you carrying? Because realistically, when we're talking about keeping money in your pocket, a lot of that is debt management. And I know that most docs I talk to have student loans, they have cars, they have houses, they have businesses. We really want to keep that to a minimum and keep more of that money in your pocket and less of it in the banks. So write down those numbers if that's the case for you. Number 4, do you know your credit score? And if you do, what is it? A lot of people don't have any clue what their credit is, and credit can be a very valuable asset. If you're unaware of credit, that's something that would definitely behoove you to understand better, because it can be a really incredible tool with your business. And if you've ever had bad credit, you know what I'm talking about. All right, number 5, on a scale of 1 to 10, if you know what your credit is, how optimized is it? Do you even know what optimizes a credit score? And if you don't, this is something that's really important, and we're going to talk a little bit further about that later on tonight. Okay? Number 6, do you know how much you paid in taxes last year? And if you do, write that number down. If you don't know how much you paid in taxes, once again, this is probably an indicator that there's some room for improvement there, because it's really difficult to optimize things when you're not paying attention to them, right? Number 7, do you use a tax professional? If you're trying to do your stuff at H&R Block, I got news for you. Although the commercials say they're the best and they'll double check it, I would beg to differ. Having a tax professional, and we're going to talk about what that looks like later on in the call, having a tax professional is absolutely essential when you're running a real business, okay? Number 8, on a scale of 1 to 10, how optimized do you think your taxes are currently? I'm going to show you some numbers that might shock you later about how the lack of optimization is costing most of the docs that I talk to without them even knowing it. Number 9, what kind of corporate structure do you have? That could be a corporation, sole proprietorship, partnership, LLC, or some other type of entity. Make sure you write that down. If you're not aware, once again, that's something we're going to be discussing later, and it'll be something to pay attention to. Number 10, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your abilities as an investor? Most of the docs that I know didn't go to investor school and don't have a lot of training there, but I'm interested in where you think you stand right now before we cover this. Number 11 relates to that. How would you summarize your investing strategy and philosophy? Now, I know a lot of you on here are philosophically based with your chiropractic. If someone came into you and they had no philosophy about how to eat and how to take care of their body and what it would take to stay healthy, chances are pretty good, I think you would agree, that they're not optimizing that. It's the same thing here with your investments. And the last question, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that your current investing strategy will provide enough wealth to allow you to comfortably retire? And I know that number is different for everybody, but do you have a plan? And if you have a plan, do you actually think it's going to work? Do you see that building up? If not, that's something that we're going to talk about further too. Okay? So that was a quick litmus test, and hopefully some of you got through that. And I hope you like your answers. But if you don't, that's okay. And the other thing is, this presentation today is not about what you do know or what you don't know. That can be a big deal. The really scary part, and my hope, is that we can help you with some of the things that you think you have handled that you don't. And I joke about this sometimes, but you know, my docs tell me how some of their patients come in and they think they're eating healthy. They're eating Subway, they're drinking Diet Coke, and they can't figure out why they're not losing weight. Well, that's the same thing. Somebody thinks they know what's going on and they don't, because they've been miseducated, misinformed. We're here to pull the veil back on that and show you some things that might surprise you tonight. Okay? So let's get started on this. And what you're going to learn tonight is 3 main things. The first thing is we're going to be talking about some time-tested financial principles. This isn't theory that we're talking about. I'm going to be telling you about things that have been tried hundreds and thousands of times with docs just like you all across the country, and we've seen the results. And honestly, I'm going to be sharing some things tonight that I've never shared on a webinar or a presentation before, because as Tabor and I talked about this, we wanted to make this as valuable as possible. So we're really going to dig in on some things. The second thing we're going to be talking about is how to build lasting wealth. And the reason this is important is as you are planning for retirement, as you're planning to build your life and create the life that you want something that you know is in it for the long haul. Far too often I see people who build things that are market dependent. They make their business so that it only works if this one insurance loophole works, or if the economy's up, or they put all their money in the stock market, and if it goes down, they're sunk. That's not lasting wealth. That's something that's dependent on things outside of you, and we want to talk about how to build lasting wealth in spite of what might be going on with the economy. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to be talking about the 7 biggest money mistakes chiropractors make, because I want you to get off this call with more money in your pocket, things that you can take home, implement today, and bring money into your bank account, or keep money that's already there in your possession. So this is very important stuff, and I want to tell you why I know about this and why I think it's so valuable. Because the reality is, I believe that everybody who's on this call has something unique and valuable to share in the world. I think that you have special talents and skills that are being underutilized, and I think that the main reason that most people are doing that is their lack of awareness around money and finances. Money is the subluxation that keeps so many people from living up to their potential, and I want to help remove that limitation for you. I want to help you be able to reach that full potential. And this is something that's really personal to me because I've been through it, and I've lived from both sides. I've lived in a place where I had tons of abundance, and I've lived in absolute scarcity. Now, my story is something like this. 12, 13 years ago, I was 28. I started my own business just like you probably have, and life was good. I was working hard, but I was making that 6-figure income. I was living the high life. I was building my business the way that I thought it should be built. I was really doing well, and I was excited. But what I didn't realize at the time is I was building my business based on a house of cards. And when the economy changed back in 2007, 2008, to be quite honest, I lost everything. I had employees that I had to let go, which is like the most gut-wrenching thing you can ever go through if you've ever had to do that. I lost my office. I lost my house. I lost my car. It was literally down to nothing. In fact, I remember a point where I walked into a Taco Bell, and I know you're all snickering, but that was literally all I could afford. I walked into a Taco Bell, and I remember looking up at the menu and thinking to myself, there are things on this menu I can't even afford. That was a scary thought to me. I didn't have change in the glove box. I didn't have money for gas. I literally was down to $2.49. And at that point, something snapped, and I said, there's got to be a better way. I built this huge thing up. I had a 7-figure net worth 18 months before this experience in Taco Bell, and had watched the whole thing go down like the Titanic. And it took a while, but I was very fortunate and unfortunate to have to watch the whole thing unravel and have every single thing that I did incorrectly be revealed to me as that whole thing crumbled. So I don't want this to happen to anybody, and there's a better way. And when I realized that there was a better way, I was willing to do whatever it took. And I had known Garrett, and it's kind of ironic because I've known Garrett a long time, but I really had just started learning about what he teaches and what Freedom Fast Track teaches right before all of this happened. I just hadn't had time to implement it yet, and I really paid the price for that. But it caused me to have to really step back and reevaluate my life and figure out how to build it right and what did I really want out of life. And I had to live on an air mattress in my friend's house for 6 weeks until I could get back on my feet and get my own apartment that I had to share with someone. And I had to struggle and bust my butt. And here we are years later, and things are completely different. I mean, just to contrast that, last year my business is set up so that I spent a month in Spain, still working, but having a great time on vacation, a month in Paris, and then moved to New York City just because my girlfriend and I wanted to. And that is the kind of difference that once you start understanding how this works and get some clarity in your life about what is working for you and what fits for you, it can change everything. And that's what I want for everybody, is to be able to do that. And I don't want money to be that limitation. So a very wise man, Benjamin Franklin, once said, beware of the little expenses. A small leak will sink a great ship. Okay? Here's what I mean when I'm talking about small leaks that can really add up. We did a survey in 2010 and 2011 with the docs that we work with, and on average, these people were wasting between $1,600 and $2,400, almost $2,500 a month in 2011. That's $2,500 a month that would stay in your bank account. If you do the math on that, that's $30,000 a year. What would $30,000 a year do for most people, right? Now we do the same thing with taxes, and these are docs who have a tax guy. And what we saw was in 2010 and 2011, per $500,000 in revenue, people were overpaying taxes by $11,700 and $11,300. You start adding that up, and that really makes a huge dent in your bottom line, right? These are the kind of mistakes that people think they have figured out and they're doing right, and they're simply not. And so those are huge numbers for most people. Some more statistics that might surprise you. 83% of Americans have an error on their credit report. Well, if you think about what happens with your credit, if you have bad credit, it's not just that you have a hard time getting a loan, it's that the loans you do get are a lot more. You could be paying hundreds or thousands of dollars a month in extra because you had to pay more for your car, more for your house, more for your credit cards, more for your student loans, more for any other line of credit that you get. So it's a huge deal. And the result of all this is 90% of docs are not financially independent by age 65. And that's really scary because what are you going to do when you get to a certain age and you don't have the money, right? We don't want anyone here to end up like that. So the question that comes to mind, I know all of you are, let's treat the cause, not the symptoms. What's causing all of these problems? And it's what we like to think of as financial propaganda versus financial vitalism. So what do I mean by this? I'm going to use a comparison that might be kind of near and dear to your heart. And the comparison is, who's educating the masses? So most of you are well aware of who's educating in the health world, right? It's the drug companies. It's the big companies that stand to make a lot of money. Well, in the financial world, it's the same thing. It's the financial institutions. And just as the drug companies would have you believe that you don't need to sweat it with your health too much, you can just come in and take a pill, and it's going to help you lose weight. It's going to help your high blood pressure. It's going to help your cholesterol. It's going to help your pain, and that's going to be the answer to your problems. We know that that isn't. Wealth is being taught by the financial institutions that there's going to be a magical financial product, a magical investment out there that's going to solve all of your problems. But it's the same thing. It's the same propaganda. It doesn't work. It shirks personal responsibility. You don't have to be involved in it. And we know that if you're not involved with your health, what happens? It suffers dramatically. The same thing with your wealth. If you think that you can ignore money or you think money is a dirty thing, we need to change that because it's not. Just like people think, well, exercise, it's not my thing, doc. I don't know how to, what to do about that. And you say, well, if you want to be healthy, exercise has got to be one of your things, right? It's the same thing with your finances. If you think that money's not your thing, if you ever want to have any of it, it's got to become your thing, at least to some level. And I'm not saying you can't use help, but you can't delegate personal responsibility. You can't delegate self-reliance. There's a certain amount of that you have to take care of yourself. So the question is, what's the solution to all this? If we're being taught a process that doesn't work and 90% of people can't retire on time, it's clear that the system's broken. So how do we fix this? When you hear this, it's going to sound kind of funny, but it's a living wealthy paradigm. And to some people that might sound kind of foo-foo. So I want to define what I mean by living wealthy, because this is the foundation that gets passed up by everybody in personal finance. In fact, I think it's funny that they call it personal finance, but they try and sell everybody the exact same thing. There's nothing personal about that. That's a business model for them to sell you what they need. And I'm not saying some of those people don't believe in it, but it's interesting to me that you would be sold the same product as me, and your grandparents would be the same, and a farmer down the street would be the same, even if we don't have anything in common. So think about that a little bit. So what does living wealthy actually mean? Okay? It means being the best version of you, because at the end of the day, your financial success is going to be dependent on your ability as a human being to be productive. And if you understand why you do what you do, or what I sometimes refer to as your purpose or your soul purpose, That's a huge step, and this is why. It gives you energy and passion every single day when you go to work, when you build your business, when you work with people. And if you had to guess who's going to succeed more, the person who's really into it or the person who's just there for the paycheck, you probably had employees like that, right, where one shows up for the paycheck and they kind of do their job and whatever. And then you have another person who's really into it and they believe what you sell and they love what you do and they can't wait to share it with people. The results you get from those two people, even though they're quote-unquote doing the same thing, is vastly different, okay? The second thing is living in alignment with your beliefs and integrity. When you live in alignment with your beliefs, when you walk the walk the talk, when you show people and lead by example, you're so much more powerful in your business. I coach docs who sometimes tell me that they can't understand why no one's buying their weight loss products, but they're 50 pounds overweight. How can that make you so powerful? If you're living wealthy in every area of your life, it's going to make a huge difference, and we're going to talk a little bit more about how to do that. And then the last thing is taking accountability for your own action. As I said before, if you're trying to pass off your financial wherewithal, your financial success to someone else and thinking that they're going to take care of it for you, that's no better than trying to pass off your relationships and hoping that someone else will do that, or pass off your health and hoping someone else will make it so that you can be healthy. It simply doesn't work. You have to take accountability for your own actions. Okay? So I want to share a little story of what you can learn from a fisherman that I think really relates living wealthy versus just having money, because at the end of the day, this isn't just about having money. This is about living the life that you're here to live, okay? And for those of you who are on the call right now, if you can, go ahead and hit the mute button. So I'm getting just a little bit of background noise. So there once was a stockbroker, and we all know the stockbrokers are pretty, if they're very successful at all, they do quite well financially. And he went on a vacation to a fishing village down in Mexico. And while he was there, sitting on the beach, enjoying his adult beverages, someone walked by, a Mexican fisherman, and it was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and he had his full catch for the day. And he was walking home, and the stockbroker saw him, and he said, hey, come over here. What are you doing? And the Mexican fisherman said, well, I'm done with my catch for the day. I'm going home. I'm going to cook with my wife and enjoy time with my family, play with my kids, probably take a nap and relax. And the stockbroker says, hey, I got a better idea. Why don't you do this? Instead of doing that, let's go back down to the ocean. You can fish the rest of the day and you can catch some more fish. Then you can take some of those fish and you can sell them to other people who didn't catch as many fish today. And then you'll make money off of those people. And when you make money from those people, you can use it to hire other people to fish for you while you're fishing. And you can bring in more and more. And if you get enough of those, then you can get some fishing boats after you sell enough fish and save enough money. And with those fishing boats, you'll be able to start up a huge company that will allow you to provide fish for the whole village and the whole area. And then when you're ready to retire, you can take all the money that you've made and you can go home and you can cook with your wife and you can play with your kids and you can enjoy life. And that puts him right back to where he was. So the question is, what's more important, trying to make a bunch of money or having a quality of life? And I'm not saying that money isn't a huge part of enjoying life, because without money, trust me, I told you already, I've been there, life is really, really tough. But we want to be clear that this isn't just about making money. This is about your life. Money is only a tool to allow you to do the things that you want to do, be the person that you want to be. Money doesn't make you that person, but it will allow you to really express yourself at a high, high level, okay? So I want you to think about that. Now, here's what this looks like in real life. Some of the people that I've worked with, we've done some case studies. One gentleman who came in and took this really to heart. When we started working with him, he had his practice, and it was a really great practice, very financially successful. But he also had 5 other businesses, so he had 6 businesses total. And he was so stressed out. In fact, when he started coaching with me, he was doing 6 coaching programs in addition to working 6 businesses. That's crazy, right? And as a result of that, he was very frustrated. He made good money, but his quality of life was not high. After we worked together for 18 months and really had a chance to get together, he went from 6 businesses down to 2 businesses. And I'll just give you a clue. One of his businesses was a rebar business, like the stuff that goes in cement, which has nothing to do with taking care of people or helping them get healthy, right? But he thought he could make some money at it. So he got rid of 4 of his businesses. His income 18 months later was up 60%. He had way more time to do the things that he wanted to do. As a result of that, he and his wife rekindled their relationship, and as he was relaying this to me, he was literally in tears at how much they had missed through trying to create wealth financially, how much they'd missed in their relationship. He literally fell in love with his wife. They bought the house of their dreams. They could have afforded it before. They just didn't have time. And this is the difference between just having money and having a quality of life, right? Another person who did this, she was doing well financially, but she was busting her butt super, super hard every day in the trenches, adjusting people, working with people. She took the time to figure out what was most important to her, was able to specialize. She was super into nutrition, and so she ended up actually selling her house, buying a farm that she lives on, uses that to grow the food that she also helps her patients with. She adjusts less people, makes way more money because she's more in depth, and absolutely loves her life that way. Okay? These are the kind of things that are possible. Now, like I said before, for most people, money is the main obstacle that's keeping you from living wealthy and expressing your purpose. In other words, being the best version of you. So let's take some time and let's put some money in your pockets, okay? So if you've got your workbook, this is time to get it out, and let's start going through this stuff, okay? Also, if you have your notebook printed out, don't be afraid to take notes and write down the things that you have questions about, or put stars by them, or things you don't know. I want you to get as much benefit of this as possible. And at the end of the call today, I'm going to give you a way to get answers to those questions, so I'm not just going to leave you high and dry if there's something that you don't understand or need more information on. Okay? So the first thing, we talked about mismanaged cash flow, and this one is huge for docs. On average, as you saw in the graphic before, docs were wasting almost $2,500 per month in mismanaged cash flow. So that's $30,000 per year. That's really, really big. And one of the tools that we use is a tool that allows you to maximize and figure out what is the fastest way to pay off my debt. So the fastest way to do that is by using the cash flow index. Okay, the cash flow index. And that's what CFI stands for, is cash flow index. What it teaches you is how efficient debt is. Okay, and the way that you figure out the cash flow index is the loan balance divided by the payment. And so when you take the loan balance, let's say you have a $60,000 car, and your payment on that is $1,000 a month, and you divide that out, it's going to give you a number. And that number is going to be somewhere between 1 and 300. The lower the number, the worse the debt. In other words, the least efficient. Or if you were to pay it off or restructure it, it would free up and keep the most amount of money in your bank account. So loans between 1 and 50 need to be paid off as quickly as possible or restructured immediately. Okay, so loans between 1 and 50, those are the really, really inefficient bad debts that will keep a lot more money in your pocket. Now the next group is loans between 50 and 100. When you divide that loan balance by the payment, need to be paid off or restructured quickly. They're not quite as urgent, and you want to start with the lowest number, but those are still fairly inefficient and things that you want to look at. Hey, can I refinance this? Can I renegotiate this loan? Can I pay this off? Those will keep a lot more money in your bank account. Now, loans between 100 and 200 are reasonable, but if you can refinance them, if you can restructure them, if you can do something with them, I would suggest it, because the ideal place is to be with loans between 200 and 300. Those are very efficient loans and should never be paid off, because you can use your money elsewhere and make more than it would cost you to pay those off. In other words, it doesn't make sense to pay off a 1% loan on your student loans if you could take that money and put it somewhere else and make 5% on it, right? Now, if in your mindset paying off that debt makes enough sense, then maybe that's something that works, because ultimately this is about quality of life, and if you're pulling your hair out over debt that is efficient, maybe it makes sense to pay it off just for your own well-being, okay? So the second area, I alluded to this earlier, is misunderstanding credit. So if you don't know what your credit score is, you need to figure it out. You can go to a website called Credit Karma, CreditKarma.com. You can get your credit report pulled there for free, and it's a really great site. They do have paid services, of course, but you can see your credit there, and you can find out what's going on with it. You need to understand what's going on because 83% of people have errors on their credit, right? So we want to know, do you have any errors? So some of the things to look for are there any typos? Are there any addresses that are wrong? Are there any errors in how you're going, or in how you've been paying on things? So the best way to repair your credit is get your free copy from creditkarma.com. Second thing is look for errors and make notes of them. And the third thing to do is contact the credit agencies. If you want to know the names, there are three main ones: TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. And if you just look up credit bureau names, you can Google those and find them. But they will give you an address where you can notify the credit bureau of errors. Just write them a letter and say, hey, there's a mistake on my credit. I wasn't late on this, or my address is wrong, or whatever. You would be amazed how much an inconsistency in your address will affect your credit score. You will be amazed how much a missed payment that maybe you made on time will affect your credit score. All of these things are really, really important. And just to give you an illustration of how valuable good credit can be, the bottom thing to fill in there says the difference between a 4% loan, the difference between a 4% loan and a 5.5% loan is $317 a month on a $350,000 house. Now, that may not sound like a lot, $317 a month, although I know for a lot of people that's a car payment for your kids. That's $3,800 per year, and the difference over 30 years is $114,000. Remember that Benjamin Franklin quote, right? A small leak can sink a big ship. So just because you have credit that's not absolutely pinnacle, because a 5.5% loan still isn't terrible, but the difference between excellent and very good is $114,000 extra paid on your house. How much of a difference does that make, right? So the third area, and this is a big one, even though I only have a couple of questions here, are about corporate structure. So having the proper corporate structure is, and this might surprise you, is vital to protecting your assets, but it can also save you huge amounts of money because it offers tremendous tax benefits if you do it properly. I'll just give you a hint. If you currently have a sole proprietorship or a partnership, you're missing out on huge tax advantages, and you're also leaving your personal assets exposed if something were to ever happen with your business. So if you have that, put a huge star by it and say, okay, I need to learn more about this. I need to figure out what I need to do. So if you've got a sole proprietorship or a partnership, there's huge room for improvement there, okay? And every state has its own rules as far as taxes go, but there are advantages in many places. And I won't even pretend to be a corporate attorney because that is some complicated stuff. But I'm just telling you right now, having the right entity structure in place protects the money that you have and helps you save and keep a whole lot more of it. So if you're missing the boat there, put a star by that one. Let's talk about it later, okay? Now, the third area is overpaying taxes, and this is a really big one. You saw the numbers. Some people are way overpaying taxes. Other people have got it pretty good. But according to our study, 93% of docs were overpaying on their taxes. On average, they were paying $11,500 per $500,000 in revenue. So you might make more than that. You might make less than that. But there's no question, and I'll give you a little secret, if you have the right corporate structure, you can actually go back and amend 3 years in arrears. So if you have a $500,000 a year practice, and that's not money you take home, that's money running through it, you can literally amend, and on average, you would get $34,500 from the past 3 years back if you were the average doc. I don't know what you could do with that, but for a lot of people, that's a lot of extra money. And where I come from, that pays for some great vacations or some really awesome college for kids, especially when we're talking about saving that kind of money every single year, year in and year out. Now, the biggest reason for overpaying taxes is using a tax recorder instead of a tax strategist. So what's the difference between a tax recorder and a tax strategist? It's like the difference between an MD and a chiropractor with your health. One is proactively working to keep your finances healthy, and the other focuses on the damage control once your health has been ruined. So I'm going to give you a simple way to tell if you're working with a tax recorder or a tax strategist. If you don't show up and talk to your tax guy if you only show up between January and April, you've got a tax recorder. You've already done everything you did all last year. There's no way to change it. There's no way to make different decisions. He's just recording what you did, right? That's reactive. If you have a tax strategist, ideally you're meeting with them several times or quarterly throughout the year, looking at opportunities to structure any purchases, any debts, any leases, anything that you're going to do, how you pay yourself, all of these kinds of things proactively so that you can maximize those tax advantages. That's proactive, like it would be working with a chiropractor. So I want to give you the 3 most common ways to overpay on their taxes. The first one is improperly structuring the way you pay yourself or not paying yourself at all. So if you just pay yourself a salary every single month, I'm 99% sure there is a way to improve that. You're overpaying taxes, okay? And if you have a tax guy and he says that's the right way, I would say that I have a tax guy who would beg to differ. So that's something to consider. How you're paying yourself is very important. And if you're not paying yourself out of your business, some people think they're going to outsmart the system. That also is not a great way to maximize your tax benefits. The second thing is, if you own your building or you own some commercial property and you're not using cost segregation, which is a strategy that very few people use, you're really shooting yourself in the foot. There are huge tax advantages to doing that. And once again, I'm not a tax attorney or a tax accountant, but I've got a tax accountant who can tell you more about that. We see people who, in the right situation, that can make massive, massive differences in the amount of taxes you pay. And the third thing is what I was talking about before. You overpay because you're being reactive with your tax planning rather than proactive. You're not taking advantage of the opportunities as they come, and once they've passed you by or you've made the purchase or you've done the transaction, there's nothing you can do about it, okay? So let's move on to the 5th area. I hope this isn't like filling your brain up with too much stuff because there's a lot we're covering here really fast. Now, the 5th area is not having any financial systems. What do I mean by financial systems? I mean understanding what's happening with your money and making sure that that's working in a way that's optimized, effective, and accomplishing your goals. Okay, so the most important financial tool a business owner can have, and a lot of you are going to cringe at this, but I'm going to clear it up for you, is a budget. Because without it, you're absolutely guessing about your finances. Now, when you think of a budget, most of us think of tightening the belt and spending the least amount possible and living on top ramen or, living a college student lifestyle. That's not what a budget is about at all. A budget is about awareness. And I think chiropractors of all people, you would get that awareness is the key to improvement, right? If you're not aware of what's happening with your health, how can you improve it? If you're not aware of what's happening with the way that you eat or exercise or come in and get adjusted, how can you improve it? It's the same thing with your money. A budget is your awareness tool. It shows you what you're spending every single month. And the beauty of it is it gives you permission to do the things you want to do. If you've actively set money aside for a vacation, then when you go on vacation, you don't feel guilty about it. You've been saving for it. You put the money aside. It's in the budget, and you know that you're going to be fine. That is a powerful thing. But if you're unaware, you can't course correct. You can't get better. Okay? So in that same vein, if you do not track and review your results, it's nearly impossible to predictably grow your wealth. You might get lucky. You might be an heir to a huge estate. But for most people, if you aren't tracking what's happening with your money and you're not aware of it, it's very difficult to get wealthy. Now, I know a lot of people say, the answer to everything is just make more. If I'm spending too much or I don't know what's going on with my money, I'll just make more. All that does for most people is get you on a bigger and bigger treadmill. You've got to run faster to pay all the bills, because if you're not aware of what's going on, most people, as they make money, they spend more money. And it's really easy to spend an extra $50,000 or $100,000 a year by buying a slightly nicer house, a couple slightly nicer cars, a slightly nicer vacation, and slightly better clothes for your kids. It's amazing. It goes away so fast if you're not aware of what's happening. Okay? So the question is, how often do you read or review your financial statements or your expenses, or look for areas where you can improve that? If you're not doing that, you're really costing yourself. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your financial skills and systems? Do you have any of these things in place? Do you have a tracking system? Do you review any of your financial statements? So rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. And if you're not really sure, it's your chances are your ability to rate yourself are pretty low. There's a thing called the Dunning-Kruger effect, which basically says that you cannot accurately assess your own performance because you don't even know enough to make sure you have a valid judgment point of view. In other words, if you don't know what you don't know, it's really hard to know if you're doing it well. And I don't know if you've ever had an employee like that who thought they were doing a great job, but they were just so unaware of what was going on that they couldn't even assess the fact that they were doing terribly. For a lot of people, that's the case, I find out. So, and if that's you, that's okay. That's why we're here. We want to help everybody get aware, okay? Now, the first and most important system that every single doc needs to have is building your savings account. If you don't have a savings account that has at least 6 to 12 months in emergency savings, you're in trouble. So the blank says, do you have at least 6 to 12 months in emergency savings? The reason is if you don't have emergency savings, you make decisions reactively. Something comes up and you're not able to take advantage of it, or you have to pay a bill and you pay it late, or you get a bad loan, or a million other things that come along that cost you dearly by not having that 6 to 12 months of emergency savings, because every penny is so important. So we want to be able to make decisions for the long haul. There's a thing called a planning horizon, which is how far into the future do you look as you're planning and building your business, building your life, making financial decisions. If you don't have the savings in place, it's very, very difficult to accurately put yourself in the right position and make good decisions. So 6 to 12 months is ideal there, okay? So financial systems, wrap that up. The sixth area, the sixth big mistake that I see chiropractors make is improper insurance coverage. Now, the entire purpose of insurance is to transfer risk away from you and onto the insurance company, okay? So the whole point of it is transferring risk. But most people see insurance as a necessary evil, when in actuality, it's a safety net for your wealth. You see, if you don't have the proper insurance coverage in place, you can lose everything you own. If you don't have health insurance in place, and even though I know a lot of people are not huge fans of the way that the medical system works right now, but if you're in a car wreck and your neck is broken, you probably need medical insurance. If you don't have it, you can lose your business, you can lose your house, you can lose everything. The same thing with disability insurance, which is basically income insurance. I had a doc who was making margaritas, and he chopped his finger up pretty good in the blender. I don't know how he did it, but he managed to. He couldn't adjust people for like 10 weeks. That took a huge toll on his business. He probably lost customers, but his income was down for a long time. If you don't have things to help you through those rough spots, it can really cost you. So insurance is here to make sure that you can move forward with peace of mind to know that when you stub your toe, because life throws curves at all of us, that you're going to continue to move forward and do well and be able to weather the storm, right? So a good litmus test is to ask, how long could your business survive if you were to become sick, hurt, or unable to work, right? If you don't know or you're scared by that answer, this is something to really pay attention to, right? So why work so hard to save and build wealth and bust your backside every day and then leave it vulnerable to chance, right? The golden rule in maximizing your insurance coverage for your money, because I know a lot of us don't want to overpay for insurance, I certainly don't, is to insure the catastrophic and not insure the non-catastrophic. If you have to, you can pay for a doctor visit. If you have to, you can pay for a fender bender. But you don't want to have to pay for the $30,000, $50,000, $500,000, $1 million claim. That's the stuff that puts people out of business. Okay? So that's the golden rule for maximizing insurance coverage. Insure the catastrophic and don't insure the non-catastrophic. So you may want to review your coverages and make sure that you're getting covered for the big stuff and not sweating the small stuff so much. All right? Now, number 7, investing. According to Warren Buffett, the number one rule to investing is never lose money. And that seems to make a lot of sense, right? But how many of us have been told that, oh, investments, the market, you're the real estate market, the housing market, gold and silver, stocks, bonds, they're going to go up and they're going to go down, and that's just how it is. And over time, though, it's going to go up, and you're going to be okay in the long haul. The reality, Warren Buffett, who is, the second or third richest man in the world, he doesn't do investments that lose money. He invests with things that he knows and understands. He keeps the risk low. So the biggest lie in traditional investing, and it's costing people dearly, is that high risk equals high return. How many of you have ever heard that? Probably a bunch of hands up, right? Here's the reality of it. The reason they're offering a high return is that chances are good you may not get your money back. Because if it was a really safe bet, they wouldn't have to offer very much. So do you really want to put your money at risk for a couple extra percentage points? I'm going to tell you right now that when you look at the math of how that works, and I won't get into it today, but if you look at the math of how that works, keeping risk low is always, always the top priority. Losing money costs you so much, and you have to make so much extra to make it up, that it's not worth it. Okay? So the question would be, where can we get a high rate of return while keeping the risk low? That would be ideal, right? So the gold standard of investing is being able to keep risk low while you also get a good rate of return. Now, I want to be sure to mention there's no such thing as no risk because, anything can happen. But you can dramatically stack the cards in your favor, and that's the goal here, to make it as bulletproof as possible. Now, with your investments, that means keeping things and investing in things that you know about, that you understand, that you have some degree of control, okay? If you don't know what's going on with your money, chances are really good that you're going to lose it. So the other thing is, a lot of you, I mentioned this on a personal note, a lot of you spend your whole day working on helping people to get healthy and helping to dispel health myths that are out there. But how many of you know where the money that you have in the stock market is? Many people are in mutual funds or some sort of hedge fund or whatever, and you have money more than likely in McDonald's stock, in Pfizer stock, in tobacco companies, because those are some of the most profitable businesses out there. So you spend all day working hard to help people get away from these things, and then when you take your money and hand it over to an advisor who doesn't know anything about you or care anything about you, and he goes and invests in the very things that you're working against all day. That's the kind of thing that makes a difference, right? So I want you to keep that in mind when you're looking at your money and how to invest it. Invest in things you know about. Invest in things you care about. Invest in things where you have control and an ability to impact them. That's how you keep risk low. When you're in the dark, when you're unaware, when your hands are tied or handcuffed, you can't do anything to keep the risk low. And most of us have been taught, take your money out of your business, out of the things you know, hand it over to somebody who doesn't know you so that they can invest it into things that you don't know anything about or have any understanding or ability to control. How does that make any sense at all, right? And then when we look at the very last thing, all of these 7 areas, but specifically investments, are about creating certainty. When we can create certainty, we can keep it minimized, we can minimize the risk, and we can do the things that are going to allow us to get the greatest rate of return while keeping that risk low. Okay? So that's investing. I'm going to take a quick breath here. That was a lot of stuff. So I've got good news and I've got bad news about investing. And the long and the short of it is that investing takes a team. It's too much for one person to know how to handle every single thing. You can't be an expert at everything. Nobody can. So you're going to need a coordinated team, right? And before you get too worried about where can I get a coordinated team, that's where we've come in to try and help out. You see, what Freedom Fast Track does is we have an accredited network. That means everybody on the team is coordinating together. And when was the last time you had your attorney and your insurance guy and your CPA all working together? Doesn't happen for most people very often. In fact, I know my experience was that my attorney was telling me to do one thing and my CPA was telling me to do something completely different, and I didn't know what to do. And that was really, really hard, right? Well, the accredited network is built upon what's called a family firm. And what family firms are is they are a team of professionals who have been hired, and usually by people who are $50 million and more. And Garrett discovered this as he was working with some uber wealthy people. But all these people work together for your benefit. They have a fiduciary responsibility. So the accredited network is designed in that same model, okay? And that what that looks like is we have people who are excellent at life insurance, medical insurance, disability insurance, legal, estate planning, business entity creation, some of the things that we talked about today, right? And then all these other areas, accounting, banking, all kinds of different investments. Having a team that's coordinated and working for you, has your best interest in mind, is something that's very difficult to find out there. Imagine, if you could have that as a health team, how well people could do if you had a specialist in everything. Well, we have taken the time to figure that out. And hopefully, even if you don't work with the Freedom Fast Track, you can go out and find your team, but you need a team where everybody's specific. If you have a guy who says, I sell insurance and I do investments and I'm an attorney or can do estate planning and, I can use LegalZoom and all this kind of stuff, I would stay away from that person. They don't know any of those areas well enough to be excellent, probably just enough to be dangerous, right? So how do you get the help you need? I want to help you with this, and I'm going to give you a gift to help you with this called a cash recovery analysis. And it's going to help you keep more of the money you make. And more specifically, we've talked about all of these areas, but I'm guessing you have questions. So this is a one-on-one, in-depth, expert analysis that I'm giving to you as a gift because of my relationship with Genesis Software. These guys are great. They're doing incredible things for chiropractors. I'm very close with Tabor and Dr. Brian and many of the people over there. So I want to help you. This is where you can get answers about the specifics of your situation, because there is no one-size-fits-all, just like there isn't with health. Can you imagine if you adjusted every single person the same way when they came into your office? How would that really work for most people? Probably not very well, right? It's the same thing with your financial situation. Everybody's got different areas that they need help in. We want to be able to answer those questions. And we're going to help you uncover any leaks with your cash or your taxes, any dangers, because those are the big ones, and any opportunities. okay? So where you can get this is I want you to go to mycashrecovery.com. There's a simple form, name, phone number, best time to call. Put that in there. I am going to personally do as many of these calls as I can, but it's going to be a first-come, first-served basis. So go there right now, fill out your name, your address, or your name, your phone number. Someone from my team will get in touch with you, or I will personally get in touch with you, so we can figure out if you even need help, and if you do, what specific areas. And like I said, the biggest danger, especially when we dig in specifically, we can uncover this, isn't in what you do or don't know. It's what you think you know that you don't know. Now, a wise man once said, it requires a great deal of boldness and a great deal of caution to make a great fortune. And when you have it, it requires 10 times as much skill to keep it. Many of you on this phone call are good at bringing in money. You're providing tremendous value for people. You're helping them with things that they need, but you're not keeping nearly enough of it. We want to help you fix that. Okay? If you could just keep an extra 10% of the money you bring in. So if you have a practice that brings in $300,000 a year, if you could keep an extra 10%, that's $30,000 extra dollars in your pocket. If you bring in $500,000 for the year in revenue, that could be an extra $50,000 in your pocket. Imagine what you could use that money to do and what you could do over the next 10 years with that. You really, really owe it to yourself, to your family, to the people you serve to be at your absolute best. Because I know most of you are givers. I know most of you are here because you want to figure out a way to take care of your family, take care of your patients, take care of yourself, enjoy life, and the thing that's holding you back is money. So my hope is that tonight on the call, we've covered some things that will allow you to be able to take a step forward, keep some more of that money in your bank account, open up your awareness. If you have questions, or even if you don't have questions and you just want to double check and make sure you're doing the right thing, make sure you sign up to get your cash recovery. There's no obligation. You're going to be talking to myself or someone who's very, very financially aware of what's going on. We're going to be able to help you answer your questions, move you forward. Whether we work together or not doesn't matter. We really want to do this as a gift to you because we love the chiropractic profession. We feel like you do for people's health what we do for people's finances, and we're absolutely behind that 100%. So you've got nothing to lose. I really, really appreciate everybody showing up and being part of the call today. If you have any questions, once you sign up for the cash recovery, you can get my email. You can email me, or you can email Tabor, and he can forward it on to me, and we can make sure you get what you need. So thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate you letting me be on the call tonight, Tabor.
Awesome. We appreciate you being here. My pen is smoking, and we're taking so many notes. And I really on behalf of Genesis Chiropractic Software, we just want to thank you because you help us to keep things in perspective, what's important, what's not important. And I know for a lot of chiropractors out there like myself, we get so many things going on inside our business that we forget. And, we need guys like you and Garrett, Freedom Fast Track. They help us to not only to make more money, to keep more of our money, but, help us to continue to do our sole purpose, which is to help people through chiropractic. And so I just want to, again, thank everybody who is on these webinars. And I want to really encourage you, go to mycashrecovery.com and check it out and take Derick up. He's just doing this for the people who are listening to this, who are on this webinar, who have been invited to this webinar, or if you want to go ahead and invite someone else and send this to someone else, he'll do it for them as well. But go ahead, yes. mycashrecovery.com. And do you need to say anything else, Derick?
I think that's it. I just know that I want everyone to understand that I value your time, and I appreciate you taking the time. If you implement this stuff, it really will make a difference.
Awesome. Well, thank you for doing what you do, Derick. Thanks for being here tonight. And we will stay in touch. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Mm-hmm.